want to have a fun debate with you guys that centers on the power of words. And I got into it, not in a nasty way at all, with a couple of listeners the last few days. And then I talked to my fiance about it last night also. Let me just reset. So a few days ago, I got an email from a Bert listener that wasn't real happy with some of the words that I used and felt really hurt by my words. And without recapping the entire conversation, I said that I'm attracted to fit women. That is just that's what I find. That's my lane right there. So Kristen asked, I think, that would I date overweight women?
No, it was because she was worried about going out with a guy from high school who hadn't seen her in a long time. She had gained weight, didn't know she needed to disclose it. And it's only pictures of her face on social media. And so I asked you and Mo, if you show up at a date with a woman and she shows up heavier than you expected, how would you react?
Right. So I said that, look, my preference is a fit, not even a fit, just an athletic looking body. That's what I'm attracted to. I work out a lot. It's important to me. That's what I'm attracted to. I get this email from a Bert Show listener saying that she was super hurt by my words and also says something to the effect of, you have no idea what it's like to be dismissed on looks alone in the dating world, to which I responded, at 5'4", I certainly do, right? So then I started to get an email or two, I should say text, tweets really, from a couple of Bert Show listeners that were very upset that I didn't apologize to the listener and was disappointed with my response that I'm sorry if you're hurt, right? Which I probably, in retrospect, should have chosen my words differently because I wasn't really sorry. I was disappointed that she checked out the show and I was the cause of her feeling hurt, right? But I wanted it to be really clear that I wasn't sorry for my words, and the listeners were saying, look, you hurt somebody. That had impact. And my side of it was, I can't control the impacts of words, or I wouldn't say, none of us would say anything on the radio every single morning. So the debate started, who really has the responsibility for the power of the word, the person that says it or the person that hears it? And I've done a lot of work the last couple of years in absorbing and embracing the idea that words are just words. That's why when the listener the other day said to me if she was in a bar and I was there at 5'4", she wouldn't even look at me. All right. Now, it stung for a second, but the responsibility of the power of what she said is really on me, not her. She didn't say anything on purpose to hurt me, so it's how I interpret it. And the debate really was like, no, words have power, and if your impact is making a person feel a certain way, you should acknowledge that, to where I say, I take responsibility for the way that I respond to words.
Okay, so while I do agree with you in one instance that you are in control of how you allow other people to make you feel. However, two things can exist at the same time. And that's not to give people carte blanche to say whatever they want, whenever they want, to whomever they want, because you should be a thoughtful person, an empathetic person, and think about how your words could affect somebody else. Those two can exist at the same time.
I do agree with you. Does that also still stand on if someone is talking about their preferences? Because that was my only thing. If you were just talking about it, to me, it would have been like, okay, that's not necessary. But if you're literally stating a person that you would want to date, I just don't understand why people get offended by that. Because to me, that's rooted in insecurity, and you're giving words power that you shouldn't.
I never said if you're overweight, I think you're heinous, that I wouldn't hang out with you. And I certainly didn't say I wouldn't even look at you, because I certainly would. And those would be words. Had I said that, I can understand how that is a specific barb at somebody and how those words could hurt. But in stating a preference, I don't feel like the responsibility is on me to control the impact of that, of how she receives it.
But you said you'd be disappointed, and that's where it was rooted, is that you would be disappointed if an overweight person showed up on a date.
No different than Katie again suggesting a date to one of her friends and had to warn the friend that when he shows up, he's 5'7". because she knew she would be disappointed.
It is different, though. It is different because overweight people are marginalized and we're stigmatized. There's more baggage to it. So you're not saying like, oh, I'd just be disappointed if a brunette showed up when I like blondes. Like, that's hair color. It's changeable. Brunettes aren't discriminated against. And yes, overweight people are. There are lots of privileges. Overweight women get paid less on average. They get poorer health care. I mean, it's a bigger issue than just the dating world. And I think that's where it really stemmed from, is you're talking about a specific group. And when you add in the phrase, I'd be disappointed, we know now, like, that's not what you meant. You were really just talking about this is my type. But when you're talking about a group that constantly faces backlash and being told they're not good enough or smart enough or pretty enough and that they need to change, those words hold more weight. So it changes in context of who you're talking about.
Yeah, I don't want to rehash the same debate we actually had about that the other day. I think what I'm trying to get to is who's responsible for the words?
You are.
Like, I understand where Cassie's coming from, and I see it like as a black man, right? If a woman doesn't want to date black men, that's just not her preference. That's not what she's into. And she goes on a date and the guy happens to be black and she's disappointed and she feels like, okay, I'm not into black guys, so I'm a little disappointed. I feel like I could allow that to hurt me as a black man, but why would I? That's just her preference.
And I think in this instance, though, your words have more power because you have a platform and who you're talking to. So you also have to take that into consideration. And how many people are hearing, like Cassie was saying, like if an overweight young girl is hearing that, oh, you'd be disappointed if an overweight person showed up for a date, like that's going to have an impact. And I get that,
Yeah, we're starting to talk about debating the same thing because, I mean, if we really want to be honest about it, if a dude that is 5'4" shows up on a date and a woman is 5'7" or 5'8", it has been my experience 99% of the time she's going to be disappointed.
And you can't change your height.
I can't change that.
There's nothing you can do about your height.
Height is okay. Well, that aside, we've talked before about intent versus impact on our words, and that may not have been your intent, but that was the impact that it had on people. And in that case, I do think people are responsible for what they say. And I think you have explained what you intended to mean. And at that point, people can sit back and say, okay, that's when the onus passes on to the person who's listening to hear that this is what your intent actually was, and now their job is to perceive it differently. But the impact of your words originally, that onus and that burden is on you. So it goes both ways. Mm-hmm. Once you've explained yourself, like this is not what I meant, well, then that burden is off you.
Yeah.
And it's on the person on how they choose to accept it and how they choose to allow it to make them feel.
That's your choice.
Tavi, yeah.
I mean, I was thinking about it like in the same terms as what Mo was saying and agree in that light. Like if you want to skirt accountability, like I find that kind of mentality very dangerous, where it's like I can say whatever I want, and if you're hurt by it, you have delicate sensibilities. That's not always fair, because if somebody were to say out loud, I would be so disappointed if I showed up for a break and a person of color was sitting there, we would all think that person's a jerk, and that could be end of story. Like, we're not saying that they need to apologize for that preference, but we would just have that perception of them and end of story. But if a person of color's feelings were hurt by it, I would in no way say you're responsible for your own feelings. Like, you let yourself be hurt by that. I don't think anybody lets themselves be hurt.
I think that's the difference in being a person of color, is that you live that. And you hear that so often that eventually you get to a point where you realize I'm either going to continue to allow this to hurt me every time I hear it, or I'm going to get to a point where I realize that that's just somebody's opinion and I really don't care. It won't affect me one way or the other.
This might be a really good example, because the black community has embraced that word so much and taken the power away from it and use it with each other.
Mm-hmm.
So they've taken that word, and rather it be a word in which they can't stand, they've embraced it. Well, when it comes from black person to black person. Anyway.
Right. Because the meaning of it is completely different when it's coming from a black person to a black person than the other way.
But now we're going down a dangerous road, because then with using that mentality, any white person can say the N-word and it shouldn't affect anybody, because then it's on the other person not to allow it to hurt their feelings. And I don't agree with that.
No, it's not.
That's
like
what I was saying.
If you say it, I'm not saying that you should say it, or that, it's not a problem if you do say it. I'm just saying that if I choose to allow it to make me insecure about being black, or about any, then that's
Okay.
my choice.
You can be mad about it, but you're not going to allow it. Okay, now I'm understanding what you're saying.
See?
I'm going to be mad you said it because you're wrong for saying it, but it's not going to make me feel any different about myself and how I feel about
100%.
myself.
Exactly.
So those now we're
right,
even we're splitting hairs even more because now it's separate from. Okay.
Hey, Tracy. Good morning. You're on the Bert Show. Hi.
Hi, good morning, guys. I'm just going to dial it back just one quick second. I have recently, not thanks to the pandemic, but I've recently gained a lot of weight. And so I do feel it. I feel the glaze over when I'm in public or just whatever. So I can agree with Cassie in that extent. I have been listening. I'm a P1, so I definitely listen to the show all day. So I know how this entire topic started. I know Bert. I know you, Bert, and I know your intention. And it was never to hurt or just whatever. I didn't feel anything. I didn't feel anything. I felt nothing. But I think where we get confused is your intention was your intention. You said what you said, and that was it. I didn't feel anything about it. That's just your preference. Who cares? Now, my thing is, I think people have a problem with it because their internal issues and the battles that they are fighting with themselves and their everyday that they are living with themselves, it has absolutely nothing to do with what you said. And it can cause offense if you are wearing that and if it is something that you are dealing with day to day. If that's the case, no one would be able to say anything. It's like asparagus. I love asparagus. Well, this person can find offense to it because maybe their great uncle died off of choking off of asparagus. How do I know this? How do I know it? I don't know. So I can't bear responsibility for what you carry around. You are not a person of intent that causes harm to anyone. You don't do that. And I didn't find offense to it, and I'm not saying another person shouldn't, but we can't be responsible for what people carry around and their past issues. That's my point.
I appreciate you calling. She said the most offensive thing of all. I don't feel anything for you, Bert.
Nothing.
I felt
We
nothing.
want you to feel something when you listen to the show.
Nothing you say affects me.
When the
ever.
words came out of your mouth, I feel nothing. When you talk, I feel nothing.
You have no impact whatsoever.
So I was told the other day she wouldn't see me, and today I was told, when you talk, I feel nothing. I'm playing.
The Bert Show.
Hey, do you like what you just watched? Because you can get more Bert Show for free. We drop new podcasts every weekday, and you can find us anywhere. Spotify, Apple, any place you get podcasts.